Welcome everyone to the Social Dig, the greatest underrated show on the World Wide Web. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And as always, we're going to be digging into the topics that keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So come on in, kick your feet up, get an ice cold beverage, get ready to join the conversation. As we go ahead and have another fantastic show here at the Social Dig, we're going to be talking about Elon Musk, mastermind or monopoly over humanity, new world order, good things, bad things, different ways you can look at it. I don't know how you feel about it. We're going to talk about, both sides of the conversation here. And then it's up to you to decide at the end of the day how you feel about it. We're going to go ahead and jump out into the chat and see who is here. We have... Get back here to the beginning. I have Simon the Likeable. Simon the Likeable, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you coming on in and saying, Rob, this should be good. I anticipate it to be good. It should be. Thanks for showing up. We got JSCO77. Thanks for coming in. We got Thirsty coming in tonight. Thanks for showing up. We got Deb from Sacramento saying, Sweet Robbie G. Thanks for coming on in. We have, who else do we have here? Magneticus Attractus is in the building. Hey, Magneticus, thanks for showing up here tonight. We do appreciate you. Let's see. We got T-Bone. T-Bone is in the building. Hey, Mr. Rob G. Hey, T-Bone. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up here at the Social Dig, where we have those tough conversations. And maybe this is going to be another tough one tonight. It really depends on how you look at it, really, right? And I really appreciate Deb from SAC getting kicked off with the $5 super sticker. We do appreciate your love and support of the Social Dig. That's how we get this thing going. As a matter of fact, we got to go ahead and bring this up on the screen because we definitely have a call-in line, 856-843-3444, but that's 856-THE-DIGG. You can call this line at any time in regards to today's show. Just say what's on your mind. You can call in and say hello, right? 24-hour line, and we really would appreciate, some interaction there. I think it all goes to getting this thing moved along the line. As we go ahead and get further into it, we have memberships available. Become a social soldier today. Once again, being a member just really helps the channel out, helps us get where we need to go and start putting on quality broadcast. I try to make these be as quality as possible at the level we're at, but I really want to get some top tier content here, and that's the goal, to get out to the masses. I want to shout out all of our social members here today, social soldiers. We have Maggie M10, the Beekeeper, D Nunley, T-Bone, and Joanne, Mothman, Richard Wilson, Love Be Love, Dogface, Blue Riders, DG, Pancho Zort, and of course Deb from Sacramento. Do appreciate you guys for your support of the show and helping this thing get where it needs to go. We have a lot of conversations that I would love to see with premium production behind it, and I think we're getting there. We're going to definitely get there as we continue to go in. We do have the social shop as well. The social shop, we have my experience with Phenomena hoodies. Haven't had time to add stuff, but I'm definitely doing that. I'm also designing a humanity t-shirt right now that I think is going to be awesome. It's really going to represent what it is that we do and why we do it, right? And I envision everyone on the planet having one of those humanity t-shirts because it represents who we are, right? At the end of the day. So with that being said, we're going to definitely have a great show tonight. I anticipate some good stuff. And let me see who else is coming here. Yeah, we got JSCO. I see you there. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and jump right on into disclosure news. Here we go. In disclosure news, a few things going on, not a whole lot, but I did want to go ahead and touch on a couple things here. Like, for instance, mystery drones. So we have mystery drones that have been apparently, swarms have been seen over U.S. military bases. As this report comes out, the incident, I guess, took place last December for like a 17-day stretch. We'll be going ahead getting into that. And then maybe talk a little bit about these UFO hearings for November. I have a couple articles that we're going to go over on both of these topics and would love your input on any and all of that. So, as we go ahead and get into this, let's just see here. All right, first story. Mysterious drone swarms stump the Pentagon. I'm going to go ahead and read this article courtesy of Newsweek and the person who wrote the article, Ellie Cook. Shout out to Ellie Cook for allowing us to be able to talk about this today. And here we go. So, mysterious drones have been spotted flying around one of the U.S.'s most sensitive military areas, leaving defense officials and local authorities stumped as to who is behind the unknown, uncrewed aerial vehicles zipping around the sky around a major U.S. base. U.S. military personnel reported drones appearing in restricted airspace over Langley Air Force Base in Hampton, Virginia, shortly after sunset during a period of more than 2 weeks, according to the Wall Street Journal. The drones appeared in December last year, according to the report, which is 2023 if you're watching this in the future, pulling in officials across the Pentagon, FBI, and the Defense Department's specialized office for investigating unidentified aerial phenomena. One senior official at Langley told the Journal that multiple drones headed across Chesapeake Bay and further south towards the city of Norfolk. They reportedly traveled across Naval Station Norfolk, the world's largest naval port and the main base for the Navy's vaunted SEAL Team 6. Unless the drones are an imminent threat, by law, they cannot be shot down by near military bases. Officials haven't determined if the drones belong to enthusiasts or are operated by countries such as Russia or China. According to the report, U.S. officials are not convinced that hobbyists were behind the controls, with the drones flying in a pattern and using a frequency band not associated with easily bought commercial drones, the journal reported. The Pentagon referred queries to the U.S. Air Force and Langley, which Newsweek contacted via email for comment. Langley is the home to a number of F-22 Raptors, which are advanced fifth generation stealth fighters. In early February last year, the Pentagon said an F-22 Raptor based at Langley shot down a Chinese spy balloon over the water off the coast of South Carolina using an AIM-96 Sidewinder missile. Quote, the balloon, which was being used by the PRC in an attempt to surveil strategic sites in the continental United States, was brought down above U.S. territorial waters, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said at the time, referring to Beijing by its official title, the People's Republic of China. The F-22 fighters were moved to another base, and nighttime training missions were put on hold, according to the journal's report. The drones visible around Langley are different from previous sightings of drones recorded for years around defense infrastructure, said General Glenn Van Herk, who served as the head of the U.S.'s Northern Command. Drones have been around for decades, but they are still presenting new challenges for national security and militaries around the world, spurred by constant innovation along the front lines in Ukraine. Global militaries are keeping a close eye on how drones will be used for years to come and how to best counter them. They can be used for a broad range of missions, ranging from reconnaissance to guiding artillery strikes or ferrying explosives to a target before detonating. On July 8th, a Chinese citizen and graduate student at the University of Minnesota, Funyun Shai, pleaded guilty to violating the Espionage Act for photographing classified U.S. Navy ships with a drone in Virginia. The FBI said Shai, who was arrested in January, photographed Navy vessels and multiple shipyards. A Newport News shipyard was manufacturing next generation aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines. Both contain classified components. A statement of facts accompanying Shai's plea agreement said he flew the drone only around the shipyards and did not take any photos that did not contain U.S. Navy vessels. He was arrested trying to board a one-way flight to China from California. So, what do you guys think about this story? I just want to get some of your opinions before I tell you what I think about this. I really okay, and I don't want to go down a conspiratorial road at all, but let's just put things together here, right? So there was a point in time where the UAP report would not tell us what these shapes of objects were. Then magically in January of 2023, which actually was from an older UAP report, which should have been out in October of 2022. But my theory is it was being delayed so they could sort of put this plan together, which I'll lay out for you right now. So the report was due October 31st, 2022, delayed until sometime mid-January of 2023. And then in that report, it all of a sudden outline these particular type of objects, shapes, which were spherical, translucent objects. Okay, move along. A few weeks after that, we mysteriously have the Chinese balloon, which I call debacle or incident, where nationally, globally, actually, on global television, global news, we watch a Chinese balloon float across the country. And then in a epic show of force, the United States shoots this thing down for everyone to see, and it lands in the ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean. Wow, right? When you look at that, wow, what a story. Now, I think the whole thing and what I've said when this all happened is the whole Chinese balloon thing is being let off because they had to come out and talk about shapes. So obviously a balloon in most cases is going to be of a spherical shape, what the Chinese spy balloon was. So my idea of this and what I've said before is that was done and staged in the way that it was to convolute or kind of muddy the waters between the real things that are spherical that we're seeing in the skies, like sort of like my sighting, versus what are obviously not UFOs, which are Chinese spy balloons. And it's funny that they tried to make it seem like this is something they were just made aware of, or we're just discovering that China's been flying these balloons. Balloons have been flown in this sort of manner since World War II, right? So it's never been a secret that balloons have been flown for espionage purposes over countries. It's always happened. It's always happened as well. Now, let's go a step further. I've also said that I felt like, because of my own sighting, I felt that the 47 objects I filmed were not manned objects. What I felt they were essentially drones, extraterrestrial drones, though. Okay. One thing I did also point to is that pretty much all of the year of 2023 into 2024, the government would come out and say that there were drones that they didn't know what the origin was, and they would try to blame it on China. You know, we had the U.S. Navy swarm, the Corbell, the video he released, and so they tried to say, hey, those were Chinese drones. And any type of case where there are, quote, drones, they want to paint them as human drones, like quadcopters and things of that nature. So, but I think we know that a lot of these things that are extraterrestrial up there that we see likely don't have alien beings inside of them. The smaller objects, the spheres and things of that nature, those are obviously drones, right? Now, moving forward to this story. So now all of a sudden, we have this mysterious drone swarm over Langley, of all places. Langley? This didn't make news until now. This didn't come out until now, that someone was flying what they're trying to paint as regular drones so that they can have a human based purpose, right? So they can say, oh, they're regular quadcopters, they're regular drones. We don't know who's flying them though. If you see how the waters get muddied even more by releasing a story like this, now this is going to open up the narrative that all drone swarms are just man-made drones, period. There is no extraterrestrial drone. They are all man-made drones. And my question is, they said there's a rule where as long as the drone isn't showing any sort of malevolent intent or posing a threat, then they can't shoot them down. And that's the rule. Okay, so at the very least, you would think that if these were regular drones, and they said obviously also that they're not hobbyist drones. So saying, if we're saying they're man-made drones, they're not hobbyist drones, then it's really a small window of possibilities that you would be left with that these could be related to. Either they're our drones, either they're adversarial drones in the manner of thinking of them as human-made drones. So here we go, muddying up the waters again. Now, this is likely to me, and this is just my opinion on this. This is likely something that they've created, right? I feel like, and obviously we don't know this for sure. This story just came out. Sure, there's a lot of digging that'll go into this. They don't paint it or make it seem like in any way that these are anomalous drones. They state that they could detect the frequency that they fly on, and that it's not really a frequency that's regularly used. But the story in general is being painted as these things, this drone swarm was of a human nature, and that humans likely made these drones. Okay. So this makes me feel like either the ones at the base in Langley, Virginia, or maybe the people who hold the keys to all the secrets deliberately have done this, right? In order to be able to say, look, these are human-made drone swarms, and literally put out some human-made drones. This is just how I feel about it. It makes sense, and it takes us further away. It kind of makes it to where you can't decipher between a report of extraterrestrial drone activity versus human-made drone activity. And I think that's what they want. So now all of a sudden, anytime you hear the word drone swarms, you're going to think of these that you see on the screen, regular human-made quadcopter drones that are being flown likely by as far as they say, some sort of adversarial, coming from some adversarial background. And I just don't feel like that's the case. I think we need to take a moment, look through this, sift through this, because I don't see any reason why anyone with drones would be flying them over a base, because obviously they'd be detected. There is no covertness to this sort of activity. So it doesn't make sense for China to be flying quadcopter drones in the United States right over one of our bases and thinking that these would not be detected. So likely, without going into conspiracy land, likely, I feel like this is probably us staging this whole news story in a way that simply muddies the waters. So when I read that, I just was like, I had to laugh at it. It was like, I definitely want to point that out, because the last thing you want is for people to be swayed now and start believing that these things that we know for sure are UFO drones. We don't want to muddy the waters and make people think that all reports are going to be what they're showing here on the screen. So thought that was pretty intense, and it's almost laughable, because I see no reason for anyone else to be flying man-made drones over military installations unless it was done as a cover-up story for what is actually going on in our skies. I don't know how you guys feel about that, But I definitely wanted to point that out. Thought it was pretty important that we talk about that. And yeah, it's just pretty laughable, pretty laughable. So moving on. And I definitely want to take a moment and say hey to the people that came in here. I do see CS is out there. Area 51 showed up. Thank you for coming on in. Appreciate you guys. And oh, I see this question here, Simon. Let me tag that. And let's see who else came on in before we move on here. I think Ange. I think I saw Ange. Yeah, Ange is here. Hey, Ange. Thanks for showing up. And okay. All right. For now, we'll go ahead and move on. All right. So, yes. Okay. So that was funny. That was funny to me. And like I said, it just falls off of what they did last year with the whole China balloon debacle. I think that was obviously done to muddy the waters on the spherical items that we see in the sky that have been reported by a lot of people. They wanted them to say, oh, those spherical items are just Chinese balloons. Now, going a step even further, now we have this drone swarm that they're saying were just man-made drones. And now the story is going to go and be, oh, okay, well, drone swarms, they're just these drones. And it's the only way they can try to put the toothpaste back in the tube and kind of move it back is to make you think the things that other people have been reporting are just prosaic things. And it's just ridiculous. But okay, as we go ahead and move on, we have UFO hearings for November, which is, pretty awesome. I hope we really get some good stuff out of this. Supposedly, there are some people that are going to be testifying that they say we're going to be so happy that these people were testifying. But as we know, whenever something like this happens, right afterwards or right before, leading up to the thing, they're going to have some sort of counter report coming from the DOD, usually probably afterwards, once we know who the people testifying are going to be. There's going to be some story, there's going to be somebody coming out saying that this person did this or this person lied about that. And mark my words, by the time we do the next show, let's see, this won't have happened. So in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right after this, when we get back together, we'll see if someone from the DOD or from the shadows has come on out and tried to shoot down what it was that's going on in November. But I'm going to read the story that we have so far on this. And this story is courtesy of News Nation. And Congress, this came out a few days ago, Congress plans UFO hearings for November. A hearing on UAPs last year garnered bipartisan support. A whistleblower has named an alleged program to have reverse engineered UAPs. Both the House and Senate plan to hold UAP hearings. This is by Joe Khalil, who actually used to report in Sacramento for our local station, Fox 40. So it's always good to see him on national news getting this out there. So here we go. When Congress returns to Washington, D.C. after the presidential election, lawmakers plan on taking on the bipartisan issue of UFOs. There are many pressing matters on Congress's plate, but one issue on the agenda is holding hearings on UFOs, or as the government prefers to call them, unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. Both the House and Senate plan to hold UAP hearings, with the House hearing run by the House Oversight Committee, which also held a public UAP hearing last year. The hearing featured whistleblower David Grush, a former Air Force intelligence officer who first came forward on News Nation with allegations the Pentagon was operating a secret UFO retrieval program. Many of the same lawmakers will be involved in the upcoming hearing, which will be led by Rep. Nancy Mace and is tentatively set for November 13th. So mark your calendars on that. Mace told News Nation that there are still some witnesses the committee wants to pin down, but the committee isn't identifying them yet out of fear they could be intimidated out of testifying. One piece of information that may be part of the upcoming hearing is independent journalist Michael Schellenberger's reporting on a whistleblower who came forward to Congress and revealed what they say is the existence of an illegal and classified program known as Immaculate Constellation. Schellenberger said the whistleblower claims the program is currently being run and is designed to reverse engineer UAP. Quote, whether or not you think there are extraterrestrial or non human intelligence, even if you think that all of this is just some sort of advanced craft, the allegation here by a new whistleblower, verified by other sources in a position to know, is that the Defense Department has kept secret this information from Congress, which is a violation of the Constitution, he told News Nation's Ross Coulthart. The Pentagon has denied the report exists and says they have no record of ever having any program with that name. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the hearings, right? I'm glad that they're not releasing names. I'm glad that this is they're taking this seriously, and it would appear that they want to get the information before those out there try to begin the discrediting campaign, which is coming right afterwards. I bet you, whoever this person is or people are that come out, there's going to be a story, a negative story written about these people within weeks, maybe days, depending on if they know who they are already, that are going to be trying to discredit them. It just keeps happening. Lou Elizondo said it first. He said, look, they did it to me. And then they turned around, they did it to Grush. And I think that cycle continues. And it just shows how strong, how, and maybe how bad this secret is, really. And it just makes me wonder more and more and more, like, why all the besides the obvious things we talk about, which is giving up power and things of that nature. Like, I really want to know, is there some sort of element to this phenomena that they are aware of that is really, really bad? Like, is there something impending that we are unaware of? Because I think if there was, I don't think they'd tell us anyways. I think they would still keep it a secret. If they knew something was approaching or upcoming, they would probably try to plan for it. But then that goes into the whole continuity of government thing that we talk about, where they have bunkers in case something does happen or something goes down, whether it comes from extraterrestrial threat or whether it comes from just some outside threat from outside the planet. That could be extraterrestrial, that could be asteroid, that could be solar flare, that could be anything from out there that would affect us here on the planet. And then the question is, would they tell you? Probably not. And then when the event happened, they would go into the bunkers and we'd be left out to fend for ourselves. So that's why I wonder, in hopefully someone can, one of these reporters or whistleblowers can kind of elaborate on what this somber thing is, as far as the fact that these things are here. Why is it somber? Let us know that. At least tell us why it would be somber, because then that allows us to prepare ourselves. And I think that's at the very least something we should be able to do. We should be able to have enough information to decide which way we want to go, or what extent we should be going to protect ourselves as humanity. Because I just don't, when you're looked at as a number and not a name, then they don't care how many of us, are become casualties of whatever effort, as long as the head of government and those in power get to stay, get to make it through the event, then I think they're okay, because I guess they figure humanity can bounce back and all those different things. But I'd hate to be one of those casualties, and I'd hate for one of you guys to be one of those casualties. So definitely information I think we should know, at least that they should at least be able to tell us that. So as we go ahead and move in to the meat and potatoes of the story, we're going to go ahead and do we have an ask the chat question? I don't think we do. Okay, we're going to move on to the main part of the show here, which is going to be Elon Musk, like mastermind a monopoly over humanity. What could all this mean? We're going to get into it in just a minute. All right, all right. So, what's Elon's ultimate plan? See there with his hands all clutched together. Looks like he's thinking about something nefarious. What is his intent, right? You hear a lot of the things that these companies that he's in charge of are supposed to represent, but has anyone ever stepped back to look at the fact that there's one person in charge of all these different companies, right? In any other situation where there's a monopoly, AT&T in the cellular market, or any other market where there's a monopoly, it seems that the government steps in and won't allow deals to go through, purchases, mergers, things of that nature, right? But somehow, some way, it seems like one person has been able to kind of corner a lot of different markets that I think really affect the progression of this planet or the progression of humanity. Like, how is this possible? Now, there's a couple different sides to this, though. There's a couple different sides to this. It could be a totally bad thing. It could be a bad thing, totally. It could be a good thing, from what Elon says, and from a lot of things that he says in regards to why he is wanting to be at the forefront of a lot of these different technologies. It's generally to better humanity, which is what I'm hoping. I would hope so. But then at the same time, and I think someone said it in the chat, and I kind of talk about this a little later, have you ever seen, and let me bring up some of these comments real quick here. Elon, Area 51 says, Elon for Supreme Leader, Sith Lord, something, dark side, something, Darth Vader, Magneticus says, and okay, let me see. Let me just bring this up real quick. Mike Jones says, and welcome, Mike Jones. Thanks for coming in. Fun fact, the word extraterrestrial is used once in the Bible to describe our spiritual bodies. That's a show we can do as well, Mike Jones. I'll have to mark that down, and we can definitely talk about that. Okay, let me see. Yeah. And so I'll kind of get into this here, but yeah, just look at the look on his face, right? Now, generally, they say don't put all your eggs in one basket. And there's a reason why people say that. There's a reason why that's a saying. You shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. Is there the chance that he's really doing this for our benefit? I mean, it would seem so from what he says, and I would hope that that's the case. That a private citizen has decided to, because when we talk about humanity versus the governments, right? There's two sides. There's the governments, and then there's humanity. And when we talk about grassroots efforts to move things forward, it's usually individuals like us who either have money or don't have money, and then use that influence to kind of direct or help direct humanity in a positive progression. For instance, if we had $1 billion here at the Social Dig, oh my gosh, right? That $1 billion would go into all different aspects of how we can improve this, and having that sort of muscle, that would be actually a good thing. You would, but you wouldn't delegate that responsibility to one person. I don't think. I think that would be, you get a bunch of different experts in different fields, and you'd have a team of people that would take on some of these things, right? Instead of just an individual being at the head of all this. And I think that's where this thing gets kind of could get kind of shaky. And I don't want to make this seem like this is, just painting Elon in a bad light, because as you'll see during this conversation, we can see both sides of it, right? And so we'll go ahead and kind of jump into, some of this conversation. I'll be checking the chat as well. Where's your comment at, Deb? Let me see. Where are you at, Deb? Yeah. Deb says, when you're the richest man in the world and so much needs fixing and nobody else is, why not try? And that's the outlook that I have on that. When you're looking at it from a positive perspective, it's like, hey, nobody else is doing this. Doesn't seem like the governments are willing to step in and do what's best for the country. Let me use my influence and my finances to go ahead and kind of take these things on and go ahead and get us, get humanity where it needs to go. I agree with that. That's exactly one of the outlooks that I have on this conversation. And we're going to go through some things and we're going to contrast it. I always stay middle of the road, but we're going to talk about the negative and positive effects of all these things, right? So let's just start off with some of the things that we know that he's involved in. And here's the thing, and you'll see in the end. We'll just button this up in the end. But taking this first one on, we have Tesla. A lot of people love these cars, right? I haven't ridden in one yet. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what the experience is like. But hey, automated vehicles, man, electric vehicles as well. No need to gas up your car, right? So that alone right there helps the planet. So I see positivity in that. I definitely see a positive aspect in not having to dig for fossil fuels and kind of not being dependent on that. And as the Tesla name, right? You got the name from Nikola Tesla, who mysteriously, ended up passing away, and his research mysteriously disappeared afterwards, because maybe he figured it out. So maybe just that thought process alone, someone like Nikola Tesla, who may have been doing this for humanity as well, and Elon is inspired by this person, which is why he named his company that. And he wants to be the modern day Tesla, right? That's how it would seem. That's great. That would be great, right? Automated cars. That means these horrible drivers out there, if we have automated cars, you don't have to worry about somebody cutting you off, or somebody drunk driver causing a horrific accident that kills innocent people. And there's a lot of positivity to wanting to head that up and be the person that kind of helps eliminate that out of our society. That is a good thing, right? That's a good thing. Now, if we look at, what's the flip side to that, though? Automated vehicles being used for war, essentially. Unmanned vehicles being used for war on the ground. We don't have it yet, but we got a cyber truck. Why not a cyber tank at some point, right? Why not a cyber tank at some point? And then the other thing is, what about the ability to choose how we travel? Do we lose the freedom of choice in this, right? If the world becomes automated vehicles, do we then lose the freedom of choice? I'm a driver I like to drive. When it's time to take long haul drives, the family depends on me to be that person to hop in the driver's seat. I love getting on the road. Sometimes I'll get on the road just to do it, just because I like to drive and see the country and kind of, hit those back roads, the roads less traveled. If you're automated, do you have that choice? Or if you do initially, could that choice be taken away from you? Could that choice be taken away from you if now everyone's dependent on cars that drive themselves and map and route you to destinations based on the best way to get there, right? So now, can I take my back roads now? Can I experience the open road? Can I have that freedom of travel that I currently have if automated vehicles become a thing worldwide. And obviously we're not talking about today because that's not, you still have the choice, but down the line, well, if this stays a thing and we get into automated vehicles, will our grandchildren have the ability to have freedom of choice on how to travel and where to travel, when to travel, right? So there's a very positive side to that. But then there's a side where this could not be so great. It just depends on what the intent is behind it. And we'll kind of get more into the intent part as well, because as long as there is a good minded person behind it and this is well thought out, then this should be everything that it's set up to be, which is a good thing for humanity. So, and like I said, we're going to be fair. We're going to look at both sides because I think it's fair to do it that way. So, let me see if anybody in the chat had anything to say about the selfless driving. Let's see. Okay, Area 51 just saying, I think Elon is more like Edison, LOL. He is no Nikola Tesla, that is for sure. Yeah. I don't think that he technically is either. I think Tesla really had figured it out. And but it's cool to, have that be your inspiration and strive to kind of elevate yourself to that level. And I think that's a cool thing. Yeah. Fact, self-driving cars don't have emotions like people to make judgment calls, morality. It's funny you say this. What's the robot dog? Guns on it already. We're gonna go down that path, Simon. You must be reading my mind. That's coming up. Yeah, Area 51. Hey, as long as there's no traffic, I'm okay with it. But I also like to drive. That's what tracks are for. That's what I mean. If everything is automated, though, your options to drive are no longer there, right? If everything goes total on, and we're not, like I said, we're not talking about now, we're not talking about in 5 years, maybe even 10 years. We're talking about down the line when automated things really become a thing, when they're every day, everyone has one, everyone has an electric car, there's no more gas vehicles. In California, I don't know about other states, but I think by 2035, they intend to stop selling gas vehicles, period. So you have to figure if that happens, then we'll just be generous, say 100 years from then, gas vehicles will be a thing of the past. You won't know what one was. There'll be kids and grandkids of kids that won't even know what a gas powered vehicle was, except for within their history books or museums, right? So you got to think about, we're thinking about down that line. So yeah, that for me, being a person that loves to drive, that freedom of choice to being taken away from me is something I would be concerned about. So moving along, we have as well SpaceX, right? SpaceX. What's the general thought? Okay, it's a space exploration company. They designed the Falcon rocket, Dragon spacecraft, the Starship, the Starlink, and the goal for Elon with SpaceX is Mars colonization. So through SpaceX, Musk has outlined ambitious plans to colonize Mars with the goal of making humanity a multi-planetary species. This would involve the Starship spacecraft and significant advancements in space travel technology. So that's awesome. Making humanity a multi-planet species, because that means humanity gets to survive. We at least up the chances of surviving when we talk about something as simple as a huge asteroid right here on this planet right in this moment could take us all out and humanity is done, or a really bad nuclear war where all of a sudden all countries are firing rockets, right? Nuclear winter, I think is what they call it. And in situations like that, which those are realistic things, we're literally on the cusp of a lot of those things right now. and knowing that humanity could be wiped out in almost a single blow is kind of scary, especially when you think about your grandkids, right? In the world that you want for them. That'd be a horrible, horrific thing to face in anyone's lifetime, right? So, considering multi-planetary humans being multi-planetary is a smart thing and a good thing. So I'm behind that effort if that's the effort, right? But these things could go to a totally different way. It just really depends on how you end up looking at it. Because SpaceX is a private gateway to space exploration. It could be considered a monopoly, really, when you think about it. Because when you have who decide who gets to go, who decides who gets to go into space? When we talk about any company that is space exploration, when we're talking about SpaceX, because this is Elon Musk, so he controls a gateway into space, and who decides who gets to go off planet? Will the average person like you and me, will we get the chance to, will we be able to ever afford access? Will our grandchildren be able to afford access to space? Right? You got to ask yourself that, right? So someone could literally flip the switch and turn the great intent of SpaceX into, you know, a barrier, a barrier to space for a lot of people. Because if there's a price tag on getting into space, there's going to be a group of people that just can't go ever, right? So you got to look at both sides of that. And then we talking about, this is one man that controls the things that we've talked about so far. So as long as there's the intent is good behind it, great. But if the intent were to change at any moment in time, then it obviously you can see how it could be a negative thing. And so as we continue, well, actually, let me just take a look real quick in the chat before I do that. Let's see. Yeah, it seemed to do a better job than NASA. That's true, because NASA, it was and I don't think the general public was ever going to be in consideration for space travel with NASA. I just don't think that was ever going to be a thing as long as they stayed at the helm. So it was great that someone from the private sector decided to step in and say, hey, no, let me go ahead and provide access to space. But the question is will your budget ever be able to afford to go? Because if not, then it doesn't matter that he's providing a gateway to space, because the barrier is there that you can't go, right? So it doesn't even matter at that point. And it dictates and controls who gets to leave planet or not. There's a barrier. Um, a gatekeeper. There's a gatekeeper. That's really what I mean to say there. There's a gatekeeper there that gets to determine who or who doesn't get to go to space, right? Simon like was like, why all the X's in everything he touches, Rob? What's the significance of that? I wonder. Good question. That's a really good question, because that could really be the answer to everything that we're talking about. It could be something that we're overlooking. CSSC above, require a lottery to where and that's still not, that still doesn't solve the problem for most. I don't want to go off planet. I'm sure every one of you guys would want to go off planet, but do you have someone that would be able to be the gatekeeper on if you get to go or not? And it will usually fall down with the economy or the society that we live in. The economy, your economic value is going to determine if you get to go, when you get to go, and just a lot of people won't be able to do it. It just won't happen for a lot of people. So, that just shows where this is a great thing for humans to be multi-planeted and be on different planets to ensure the survival of the human species. But then it just evolves into a situation where it can be negative because a lot of people that want to go won't be able to go, and he'll determine if that's the case or not. So let's see, what else do we have? Neuralink. I think this is one of the we talked briefly about this a few weeks ago. Neuralink is a technology. Neuralink is developing implantable devices that connect the human brain to computers. The goal is to treat neurological conditions, enhance cognitive abilities, and eventually merge human consciousness with artificial intelligence. The company has created a prototype that is inserted into the brain to monitor and stimulate neural activity, which is awesome in some aspects because I've seen some people who haven't been able to walk, who've been paralyzed from, the neck down, and now have the ability to perform different tasks at this point. I saw a guy playing video games just using his mind through this Neuralink chip. I think that is awesome because you're giving life back, or a part of life back to individuals that would not have had that. So I think that's noble. I think that is very awesome, and I'm totally behind that sort of technology. And someone who as long as you have a great intent behind it, then yeah, I'm totally with that. I think that's kind of cool that you can do that, but there's ways that you can look at that and say, wait a minute, it raises flags for some people, and myself included. I'm just speaking for both sides. I think Neuralink, kind of opens you up to, and I'll flip the page here because I wrote it right here, programming or human mind control. And this isn't just saying that, right? Because essentially, if a computer chip it works and interfaces with the human body, and if you're able to send programming language through that chip, it's not too far fetched to think that at some point, not maybe today or tomorrow or 5 years from now, but down the line, if this technology continues to be developed and enhanced over the years, that you may get to a point where you're able to do all sorts of things. Just think of any sort of computer that you have right now, and the way that you're able to manipulate and download, upload things into your computer system. You're able to customize your iPad or any device the way that you want it by downloading particular things or inputting certain, and everybody's device is suited to them, to their personal preference based on, the type of programming you've installed into that device. And so if humans become programmable, if you're installing chips in somebody's brain, you have to think that something like that probably wouldn't be too far off, or the capability, or even if that wasn't the intent, that the capability might be derived from that technology. And that's a whole another part of it that we'll talk about in a moment, because it doesn't have to be his particular intent, but just opening up the gateway for that to be possible and creating technology that takes someone else down the road. Then all they need to do is take what you've done and then do some nefarious things in order to kind of make that so. Look at hackers and things of that nature, right? People who do workarounds on devices, jailbreak devices, for instance, and are able to get past security, within devices in order to program something the way they want it, or to bypass certain things to make, to kind of crack the code, or, that's where you kind of get into that area, right? So it could be a dangerous path or a dangerous way to go. And for one person who currently has a great intent, who's to say that that's always the case? And so as we'll continue and kind of get into some more of this, talk about the ethical implications of this too. The Boring Company, which is one thing that I had heard about, but looked further into to see why it was even a thing. And it's the Boring Company is being used. The mission is to solve traffic, enable rapid point to point transportation, and transform cities by building safe, fast to dig, and low cost transportation, utility, and freight tunnels, which is awesome. If you've ever driven in Los Angeles, I've driven in metropolitan areas like the Bay Area, and then the Los Angeles area, and it is a headache as far as traffic goes. And to have the mindset to say, I want to alleviate those concerns for humanity, that's once again an awesome and noble way to approach something. And to use your money to do that is, I think, next level awesomeness. I really do. I think that's the coolest thing ever, is to want to solve humanity's problems. And this would be a company, the way that it's set up, that intends on doing that. And I really think that that's a cool thing. Now, someone who owns a tunnel boring machine, obviously, I don't even have to tell you where that could go. For anyone who had a tunnel boring, if any of you had a tunnel boring machine, let me tell you, you guys would probably be doing some things you shouldn't do with that tunnel boring machine. And just to say, obviously, let me look in the chat here and see if anybody has any opinions on the tunnel boring. I don't even know if you guys knew he did this, but the reason why he did it is pretty noble, and I think it's pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what you get into. In Dolce, tunnels for Tesla, not just tunnels for Tesla, but for the highest bidder, right? Not just for Tesla, but for the highest bidder. That's kind of where it gets dicey. Like, oh, if it's going to be Dolce. Did I say Dulce Magneticus? I might have Dolce. Yeah, tunnels for Tesla, and who knows who else. That's the thing. If the technology is used for good, and it's used for the purposes stated, then I have no problem with it. But you look at each one of these things and keep in mind, one person controls each one, all these things we're talking about. Think of all these powers together and what they can mean. And we're going to kind of get there. But as far as the Boring Company goes, I think, yeah, subterranean building, bunkers for the elite, coast to coast, underground traveling, underground tunneling, from the West Coast to the East Coast. Who's to say that's not possible? I don't know that it is. I don't know if you could go through every layer of whatever you're going to encounter from California to New York, but theoretically, if you had enough drill bits, or the heads they put on these machines, and you had enough time to do so, and the soil beneath the surface of the earth allowed you to tunnel through it, I really don't see why you couldn't at some point, whether it took you a year, 2 years, or however long it would take for you to tunnel from one place to another. That's where you get into a lot of those stories where people talk about, oh, there's a tunnel that goes from Area 51 all the way to Wright Patterson, or to Dolce, or to various places, right? If that were true, it would be done by a machine just like this. And a person who has control of all these other things also has a tunnel boring machine. Okay, could be nothing. Like I said, if it's used for the goodness of humanity and used for the purpose which they stated, once again, the mission is to solve traffic, enable rapid point to point transportation, and transform cities by building safe, fast to dig, and low cost transportation, utility, and freight tunnels. Using that aspect, I think it's awesome. Now, this is where we start going down the darker road, right? Tesla bots, like the Optimus. He just had a presentation within the last week here, unveiling some of the newer bots, and think he had the cyber taxi and a couple of other things that he unveiled there. I've always felt weird about these things here. I've just and not because of Elon, but because of Boston Dynamic, right? And they have the some of the purposes. Well, which we'll get there. But the bots, just the good thing that they're trying to use these things for. Um, is Tesla is developing these humanoid robots called Optimus, and they have other models as well, designed to perform tasks that are repetitive, dangerous, or boring for humans. It is intended to have human like dexterity and be powered by AI technology, which I think that's where we start to get into the problem with it because these humanoid bots, if only used for the purposes just mentioned, push humanity further down a path of putting us in a better place as human beings, allow freeing us up to do other things while these bots take care of the menial tasks and they said repetitive or dangerous things, and we could focus on other things, which would be great. I would love for that to be the case, and I hope that's what we I hope that's how it stays, and I hope that's what happens with these things, right? But when we talk about AI, we talk about AI, and let's see, I don't think I have the slide in here, but I'll bring it up here. We talk about AI, then you have to think about robot armies, right? And you're like, whoa, wait, robot armies? You go from, bots that are going to help repetitive tasks, dangerous tasks, things of that nature to robot armies. Well, the only reason why I would go that far or to even put that alternate perspective on where this technology could go is because it's already gone there, as mentioned earlier, with these Boston Dynamic robots. Ever since I've seen these things, and look, going back to 2005, they've been developing these things. They're still doing them today. These dogs, these that fully can do backflips and run and do all sorts of things. And if you somehow connect AI with any one of these robots, and whether it's Tesla or whether it's one of these that seem more physical sort of robots here at the Boston Dynamics, then I think you got a problem on your hands, right? I think that could literally turn into something that becomes a problem. An army of robots with intelligence connected to Starlink, right? Starlink is global internet. Starlink is internet all around the world, even in some of the remotest places, internet. AI connected to a nonstop supply of internet in a robot form that is able to carry out tasks, that could turn into a problem. I think you could probably see or understand, where that could go wrong, right? You can understand that if in the wrong hands, how that could go wrong. And we're talking about still one person who has control over all this stuff. Let me just look in the chat real quick. Yeah, I agree. Area 51. Major cities should have automated cars, but leave the road open road to us road dogs. I really hope they do. Area 51. It doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like that's what they're gonna do, but we'll see. Let's see. Let me check any. Okay. Okay, sovereign. I don't know what you mean by this. Maybe to the library. Let's see. They always prop up certain people to be the face of something that has been in existence for a long time. Felon scum is a deep state fraud. Not sure exactly what you mean on that. Let's see. Area 51 says, I like when he does the unveiling of his products because he is so happy and excited that I get happy and excited too. I mean, that's cool too. And I hope it's all for the good. I really do. This is what he says, and I take him at face value. I'll take him at his word. But there are some things that can make you think differently, which we'll be getting into. Let's see. Let's see. Elon's company is Simon Likeable. Elon's company is XAI, who want to understand the true nature of the universe, apparently via AI. Okay. And it's a good mission statement. And let's see. Sovereign Cosmic Wallman, automated cars is already taking it too far. I've always noticed the dangers of excessive automation, for sure. Dev Sack, the concern over Elon reminds me of the panic over Elvis back in the day. Rock and roll, LOL. That's funny. I think it's deeper though, Deb. I think you could see how there'd be some real risk to someone controlling all of these things because there's a negative side and a positive side to it. If all stays positive, it doesn't matter if the one person owns it. If all the intent is good and the intent is for humanity, then I think we could, have a good outcome from a lot of that stuff. But it doesn't take much to change that. Let's see. Mike Jones, whatever good science can do is always shadowed by the ones who want to use new tech for wars or population control. That's exactly right. When we'll get into that in just a moment. Let's see. Let's see. Was Derek Tyler on your show only one time, or did he return the first interview? Use the rare cash. He was on there the one time, and I'm actually going to get him set up to come back as well. Okay. All right. So there we go. Robot armies. This has been one of the biggest things, especially with AI emergence and it developing so rapidly. AI is telling you already what it intends on doing. People have asked AI, what would you do? Would you have any problem wiping out human beings if you determined that was the best path to save the planet or to get to your goal? And AI have said clearly, we would definitely do that. So if you give that AI thought process a physical body that can interact with the world and allow those two things to be one, and then with the expansive internet that we have, Google knows everything, right? You Google everything, and if it has access to Google as well, dude, I don't know how you combat that. I don't know what you do. And it's just yeah, that can be a problem. So with that being said, let's see. So we had that, we had the robot armies, and then this is the thing that nobody really thinks about, but is also one of the biggest players in this, and it's X. X. A lot of people use X. I know for sure some of you guys don't, but there's most of the world uses X. And since it has been taken over, it has been listed, or the whole idea was, according to Elon Musk, is that he just wanted, a platform. He wanted to be able to have somewhere where people could speak freely and have freedom of opinion, sort of thing. And if you've been on Twitter, that's generally not what happens there. It actually ends up being a pretty toxic place. I've seen a lot of toxic things happen on Twitter. A lot of toxic conversations, a lot of fighting against each other. And even with that, could this be used as, and is being used, I think, as propaganda or social manipulation? Very possible, because it currently is being used for that. And historically, is even before Elon Musk, it was being used, even though you had people in there that were trying to silence some of that stuff. But being that it's a free, open, minded sort of platform now, some of that stuff does get through. And could this be used as like the main propaganda arm for all of the companies that we've talked about in today's show? All those different companies. We'll just kind of go back over them really quickly here. Tesla, which would be your electric vehicles, automated vehicles. And what about the ability to choose how we travel? Do we lose freedom of choice once if we allow Tesla to go forward? Then you got SpaceX. SpaceX, who decides who gets to go, gets a gateway ticket to space, who gets to go off planet. Will the average human be able to afford that? Not sure. Neuralink, we know what it's supposed to be for, but could this technology be used at some point to program the minds of individuals who have this chip inserted in the wrong hands in the distant future? Could chips even be mandated for, you've seen movies where people, yeah, they had those future people have these chips installed, and it's like mandated that you have these chips now installed into you, or and there's people that fight against that. Is that the future? Who knows? The Boring Company, we just saw the tunnel boring machines. We know what it's supposed to be for, but could that tech be used to create underground networks in the event of asteroid impact or alien invasion? Who controls or who gets access to those tunnels? The Tesla bots we just talked about right now, humanoid robots. Tesla's developing those humanoid robots, and we talked about the capabilities of those if they were to interface with AI. If someone nefarious out there, and it could be Elon. Elon has great plans now, but there could be a moment where either he changes his mind on what he wants to do. Life does funny things to you. Life, your outlook on life changes depending on life events that you go through. So, yeah, that's the mindset today, and I'm glad that that is, and I hope it stays that way. But things could change. If you've looked at, and I'll get to this in a moment, but once again, the X we just talked about here, it's one of the most popular social media platforms out there. A lot of people engage there. There's a lot of infighting there. And could that be used as the main propaganda arms for all those companies that we just mentioned? Um, we got Deb, yes, behind every gun there's a shooter. So who's to blame? The shooter. And you can get into that, but we'll talk about why, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with Elon directly, right? Because we're talking about some of these things we're talking about wouldn't happen until far off into the future. I'm sure far after Elon's gone and we're gone, and it's going to be, but the technology is still going to be there. So let's talk about some of the good things, right? Because there's a bit the benefits that I talked about. We talked about the benefits. That's Elon with his thumbs up, looking all happy and smiley, because they're, for the most part, the way he's laid the stuff out is he's doing it for the benefit of humanity. And once again, I applaud that, and I can see how all these things do benefit humanity, and I can understand how the intent would be. And once again, like we stated, he modeled the company Tesla after Nikola Tesla, so we know the intent, to progress humanity in a positive fashion. That has to be the mind state behind taking that Tesla name, right, and using it. You would think that would be, and I agree, and I feel like for the most part that is what he's wanting to do. There's things that we didn't talk about that I was unaware of, like the Tesla Energy, which is essentially he acquired a company called Solar City, which was going to be a company that produced solar panels for homes across the country to provide, to kind of take a big chunk out of your energy bill. They're going to replace the roof tiles on your roof. So, the rectangular roof tiles were going to be like solar panels, and they're going to be installed on everyone's roofs and allow you to save on your electricity bill. For some reason, that company ended up not doing well, and it's kind of not a thing right now. Not saying that he can't bring it back, but those are good things and positive things for humanity. So I like that. I hope he can bring that back. I hope the intent stays to benefit. I hope these companies stay with the mindset of benefiting humanity, because we easily see, and we've talked about how the intent is all it takes is intent for the mission to change in each one of those companies that we mentioned. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but just here's a synopsis of why this is important, having this conversation, and what the outlook on this really is. So, looking at this concentration of power, could lead to world domination. Not saying that's what Elon is trying to do, but concentration of power for sure in any instance can lead to world domination, whether it's a choice that he wants to make on his own, or whether it's someone that influences him into doing so, or it's someone that forces him into doing so. And so let me go over this. The question of whether one person controlling a vast array of powerful technologies could pose a threat to humanity globally is a complex and important one. In the case of someone like Elon Musk, who is involved in multiple high impact industries such as exploration, artificial intelligence, transportation, energy, and even social media, there are both potential risks and benefits. Let's break down some of the key considerations. So, the concentration of power, the risk would be the concentration of so much technological influence in the hands of a single individual can lead to concerns about unchecked power. If one person holds significant control over industries that impact global communication, like X or Twitter, space exploration, like SpaceX, artificial intelligence, which would be OpenAI, was the previous company he had, then Neuralink, energy, which would be Tesla and the Solar City we just talked about, and more, it raises the question of accountability. Such influence could lead to unintended or even deliberate misuse of these technologies, affecting millions or even billions of people. The global impact, a single decision, whether it's about deploying AI, launching space missions, or manipulating social media, could have far reaching consequences. For instance, if AI systems are deployed improperly or recklessly, they could disrupt economies, violate privacy, or even pose existential risks, as Musk himself has warned. Number two, the AI and automation consideration of this. The risk, Musk's involvement in AI development, particularly with OpenAI and Tesla's autonomous vehicles or systems, raises concerns about how AI could be controlled and regulated. If an advanced AI system were developed without proper oversight or ethical guidelines, it could lead to dangerous scenarios. Musk has repeatedly expressed concern about the AI potentially becoming a threat to humanity if not carefully managed. The global impact would be AI technologies like those Tesla and Neuralink are working on could revolutionize industries, but they also raise concerns about job displacement, surveillance, and even warfare if AI were to be weaponized. If such technologies are monopolized by one person or entity, global inequality and power imbalances could widen, leading to social unrest or economic upheaval. Then space or exploration or colonization. The risk, Musk's ambition with SpaceX to colonize Mars and explore space may seem like humanity's next frontier, but they also raise ethical and safety concerns. Who controls space resources? What are the legal frameworks governing space activities? And how will the benefits of space exploration be shared? If one company or individual dominates this space, it could set dangerous precedents for resource monopolies or environmental degradation in space. The global impact, if space becomes commercialized primarily by one individual or company, it could lead to unequal access to space resources and technology. This could widen global power disparities between countries and individuals who can afford space travel or resource extraction and those who cannot. Now, the social media and influence on public disclosure, the risk. Through this ownership of X, formerly Twitter, Musk has control over one of the most influential social media platforms. Social media is already under scrutiny for its role in shaping public opinion, spreading misinformation, and affecting democratic processes. Musk's personal control over such a platform raises concerns about transparency, fairness, and the potential for misuse. And to pop in real quick, we know publicly that Musk has aligned himself and publicly backed individuals who've openly threatened democracy. As we get back into this, the global impact, social media platforms can easily influence political discourse, elections, and social movement. If Musk or any other individuals controlling such platforms uses it to manipulate narratives or suppress certain voices, it could have destabilizing effects on democracies globally. Then you have the economic power and influence, the risk. With so many high profile companies under his belt, Musk's actions have the potential to significantly influence global markets. For example, his public statements have been known to cause massive fluctuations in the stock market, especially in the value of Tesla shares or cryptocurrencies. This kind of power over markets can lead to financial instability and raises concerns about manipulation. The global impact of that economic power concentrated in the hands of one person or company can create vulnerabilities in the global economic system. Decisions made by one individual can create ripple effects in the global supply chains, energy markets, and even governmental policies. The ethical and moral concerns of this, the risk. With even the best intentions, ethical and moral considerations may differ widely across cultures and nations. Musk's vision for the future, whether it involves space colonization, human AI integration, or sustainable energy, may not align with the values of all people or governments. Without accountability, there's a risk of imposing a single ethical framework on a complex global issue. The global impact, ethical decisions about the use of AI, space exploration, and even social media should ideally involve diverse voices and perspectives. If these decisions are centralized, there is a danger of creating systems that favor certain groups or countries while disadvantaging others. Now, the conclusion to this would be Elon Musk Ventures have deniably, while Elon Musk Ventures have undeniably pushed the boundaries of human achievement, the concentration of power and control over such transformative technologies in the hands of one person does present potential risks on a global scale. Musk's influence extends across key industries: energy, transportation, space exploration, artificial intelligence, and social media, all which have profound impacts on society. The potential dangers stem from the lack of oversight, accountability, and checks on the decisions made by an individual with such far reaching influence. The benefits of technological advancement must be balanced with ethical considerations, regulation, and a diversity of voices to ensure that these innovations serve humanity as a whole rather than a select few. While Musk has expressed caution about the dangers of certain technologies, particularly AI, the sheer scope of his involvement in so many critical areas means that missteps, either intentional or accidental, could have significant global consequences. As such, the need for thoughtful regulation, public dialogue, and collaboration across industries and governments is essential to prevent any one person from wielding disproportionate influence over humanity's future. So, with that being said, I think that pretty much sums it up, the conversation that we had here today. Let me go ahead and look in the chat, see if anybody wants to chime in real quick. Let's see. Let's see here. Yep, Raji, I agree. Accountability. Earth Goat Trees, he's a puppet. Check the puppet master. And he could be. And that's the whole thing. So, real quick here, who carries on these projects after Elon? That's an important question, because if Elon's intent is genuine, to really help humanity, you know, he has to pass on one day. Okay. And whose hands do those technologies then fall into? Could it be someone that doesn't have the best intent for humanity? Potentially possible. Then that's where these things turn into the the bad things that we talked about, right? It may not happen under Elon's watch at all. It may happen under the next person who carries on the development and technology of these areas that he's worked in.
And it'd be easy for them because it isn't like these technologies are scattered all over the globe. These are being curated in one place under one person. So anyone who were to get under Elon right now, a young person, 18 years old, kind of be a mentor sort of person that ends up being the person to take these things over when Elon goes. If that person doesn't have the best intent, every one of these things we mentioned could go down that dark path that we talked about. That's why it's important to have the conversation, because there really shouldn't be ever one person that wields all this power and has the ability to control all these aspects of humanity's future. Haven't we seen supervillains in movies turn nefarious after initially once having good intent? It's the whole supervillain mantra, right? Where they were good at one point in time, and then something happened in their life that turned their mindset, and now the powers they had that were being used for good are now being used for evil. Right? When you look at that, you think of that concept, that could happen to a person, or it could happen, whoever picks up this Elon's tech after he passes, unless he's an android and the robot is going to be here forever. And his goal is, and he knows this, and his goal is long term. Otherwise, a lot of these goals that he has probably won't be achieved within his own lifetime. So you have to ask, who's going to pick this up, and are they good intent? Are they people with good intent? If I was someone nefarious, I would be already planning and plotting on this now in this very moment. Like, okay, Elon's not going to be here forever. How can I get a hold of this tech, or how can I wield that same power and take it in the direction I want to take it in? And that's kind of what it is, right? That's what you got to think about. So it's not technically about Elon being the evil person or creating a new world order, but the fact that he has control of all these things in one place. He could be influenced into doing so, or the next person who takes on his projects could be the person that takes it down that path, or mismanages the technology. And it, just like we talked about, these are things that can make this turn bad. So it may have seemed like we were going to paint Elon in a bad picture, but not really. He's in every state said that he's doing this for the right reasons. He's shown that. There are a couple questionable things you have to ask about, but for the most part, he's kept up his end of the bargain, and hopefully that continues to be the case. But anything can change, and that's what you have to be aware of. And yeah, it's cool today for him to have all power over all the in control over all these markets. But if he were to change his state of mind and state of thought tomorrow, would you still agree that it's okay for him to control all these different aspects of humanity's future? Ask yourself that. I'll leave you with that as far as this conversation goes. And then we will always
Ask the chat.
how do you feel about this concentration of power? I hope you've at least thought about it and thought about, how it could not be such a good thing in the wrong hands, right? That's what I'll leave you with as far as this goes. And now what we're going to do is get into the rest of the show. We have Once Upon a Time in Ufology, which I'll go ahead and get that going right now. But Once Upon a Time in Ufology. And what we'll be covering today on this segment is the Turkey UFO incident 2007 2009. This one is always mind blowing to me. Once again, Once Upon a Time Ufology is us taking a look back at a historical event that has happened within ufology. A lot of newcomers into this subject. This is for you. So let's go ahead and get into this right now. The Turkey UFO incident primarily revolves around the videos captured by Yalcin Yaman. Over multiple nights from 2007 to 2009, Yaman, using a handheld video camera with a powerful zoom lens, recorded footage of what he described as large metallic crescent-shaped objects hovering above the Sea of Marmara. The several instances, the objects were seen in great detail, with some frames allegedly showing what appeared to be beings inside of the craft. These objects moved silently and appeared to hover, sometimes over the sea, at other times in the sky. One of the most intriguing aspects of the footage is the apparent clarity and duration of the videos. Unlike many UFO sightings that are brief and unclear, Yaman's videos provided extensive and relatively stable footage, which made it a rare case in potential extraterrestrial documentation. Over time, the footage was analyzed by several UFO research groups and experts. While some hailed it as groundbreaking evidence, others raised questions about the nature of the recordings. The Turkey UFO incident attracted the attention of international UFO research organizations, including the Sirius UFO and Space Science Research Center, led by Hakan Akdogan, and his team examined the footage and declared it to be authentic, meaning it was not tampered with or digitally altered. They further claimed that the objects in the footage did not resemble any known aircraft or natural phenomena, suggesting the possibility of extraterrestrial origin. Several ufologists and video analysts have supported the authenticity of the footage, arguing that the object's movement, shape, and behavior are not consistent with any known man-made craft or hoaxes. Some of the more sensational claims about the footage involve the idea that the figures visible in some frames of the video could be alien occupants piloting the craft. These claims, while highly debated, have added to the mystique of the incident. On the other hand, skeptics have questioned the validity of the footage. Some argue that the objects could be misidentified conventional aircraft, boats, or other common phenomena like reflections or atmospheric distortion. Others have suggested the possibility of a hoax, pointed out that while the footage appears impressive, it could be staged using models or other methods. However, to date, no conclusive evidence has emerged to prove the footage a hoax, and Yalcin Yaman has consistently stood by his account. The Turkey UFO incident quickly gained international attention, with many UFO enthusiasts seeing it as one of the most credible and compelling pieces of evidence for extraterrestrial visitation. It has been featured in numerous documentaries, articles, and conferences dedicated to the UFO phenomena. The incident's timing coincided with a period of renewed interest in UFOs, with governments around the world, including the US and the UK, releasing formally classified UFO files and videos to the public. In Turkey, the incident sparked significant interest, and the footage was broadcast on Turkish television, where it was discussed by experts and skeptics alike. However, despite its popularity, the Turkish government has never issued an official statement on the incident, and the footage remains in the realm of speculation rather than scientific consensus. So that is the Turkey UFO incident. I remember when I first saw this, and apparently, and I'm not going to be able to point to it, but in the, yeah, right here, so you can clearly see. So in the video, the frame in the upper left, that's essentially what you see. And it's like, okay, well, what is this? I see it could be shaped like a craft, not really sure. But then if you look right there in the dead middle, you see those two little white dots, and after being zoomed in on, are the images you see below. It's 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5. And they do look like potentially beings. This reminds me of the Las Vegas ET video, which I'll show at a later time, but I've showed it before, and you can kind of see the head, eyes, whatever the creatures are. I think this is pretty compelling. Let me give you the zoom in on this, and let me remove this real quick. Yes, as you can see, picture 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those look like ETs. I don't know. What do you guys think about those? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Okay. Oh, my mic is fading in and out. Okay. Let me do this a little better here. Yeah, it's StreamYard that does that, the program we use to stream. But on our end, it doesn't turn out that way. So if I record it on the third source, the fading in and out doesn't happen. It just happens through StreamYard, which is why it comes that way to you guys. But hopefully you can hear me now. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. So I'll just kind of go back over that anyways, because like I said, in this footage, when I originally saw this footage, I saw the image in the upper left. And I thought, wow, okay, that kind of does look like the shape of a craft. And I had no idea about the things in the middle until somebody pointed it out. So when zoomed in, as you see in the images 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 below, there do appear to be two shapes there. It looks like maybe eye cavities there that we see. And yeah, it could be potentially a bean. I mean, I don't know. It really is compelling at the least. And if real, if authentic, then this is like one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that we have. And I wish I don't know if there's even a way to get further than this. This is like as zoomed in and as crystal clear as you can get. And this is kind of what you're left with. So you kind of have to make your decision off of this, is if this was an authentic sighting or not. However, it was reported as one, so that's why we're covering it in Once Upon a Time in Ufology. So that is that. We're going to go ahead and get ready to get into our next segment of the night, which is our science fiction and science fact movie. That is none other than the movie Signs. If you guys have seen this movie here, what I reason why we show this is because we want you to kind of take a look at this in the new perspective that you have now, that this is a real thing. So now that you know that these things are visiting, people have seen craft, people have recorded videos of these things in the sky. Now, with that new mindset and the new lens that you're looking through, go back and watch this movie if you haven't already done so. And I swear you will walk away from it feeling differently about, the storyline and what it is that you're seeing. Because, you know, not to be a person that says they're here to invade, because I don't necessarily know that to be true. But in the event that they were, this is something, the feeling that you get from watching this now kind of puts you in that moment, right? So we always recommend that you go back and watch a lot of these old videos, these old movies. We have these on every show every week, so we'll have a different one next week. Last week we had Dark Skies from 2013. Definitely a great film. I hope you went and watched that. But go and watch this video this week, sometime this week, and then let's talk about it next week and see how it made you feel in today's time. So, with that being said, Signs, I'm going to go ahead and go over kind of what it's about if you hadn't watched it yet. Signs in 2002, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, follows a former priest named Graham Hess, played by Mel Gibson, who lives on a farm with his two children and his brother Merrill, who's Joaquin Phoenix. One morning, they discover mysterious crop circles in their cornfield as more strange events unfold, including eerie sounds and disturbing news reports. The family begins to suspect something far more sinister may be behind the phenomenon. The film focuses on the family's struggle to understand the mysterious signs and protect each other while exploring themes of faith, fear, and the unknown. And that is Signs. And this is one of my favorite movies, even before I knew these things were here. At the time I've been a fan of this movie since it came out. And at that time, I obviously believed that something like this could happen, but I was not under the impression that these things were visiting every day, right? So now that I am under that impression, and I know because I've seen them in the sky and various other reports, and then now government reports through Lou Elizondo and other people like that, knowing that these things are actually here most of the time, then a scenario like this, it makes it more plausible. And so watching this film, I think you walk away from it, feeling just, I don't know how to explain it. You definitely feel different than you did back in 2002 when you watched it, right? So with that being said, that is science fiction, a science fact movie of the week. We do that every single week, and we'll be doing it again next week when we talk about Scientology finally. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get this thing wrapped on up and get ready to take this thing home. So another fantastic show right here at the Social Dig. So glad you guys could come on out and spend this time with us tonight. Once again, the shows go like this. You're here right now at the Social Dig Wednesdays, normally at 5 p.m. Pacific. Then we have on Fridays, which we'll have an awesome show this Friday coming up. My Experience with Phenomena. We'll have Brown Dwarf as the experiencer. So make sure you're back here for that. That's going to be an awesome one. As we talk aliens and UFOs over Los Angeles. I'm an hour north of Los Angeles. They had the Battle of LA here in Los Angeles. So a lot of good stuff we're going to talk about and hear Brown Dwarf's experience. Also, the late night call-in show on Saturdays right after we finish up over at the After Hours on Spaced Out Radio. Just awesome stuff, action-packed. We keep it going every single week. So once again, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, catch me right here on the Social Dig. Then Saturdays and Sundays, 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Pacific, catch me over at Spaced Out Radio at the After Hours Radio Show, where we do fantastic stuff over there. Also, the social shop is open. We got hoodies, all sorts of swag over there. Make sure you go check it out. Want to also thank our social soldiers, members, Maggie M10, The Beekeeper, D. Nunley, T-Bone, and Joanne, Tamog Man, Richard Wilson, Lovey Love, Dogface, Woo Riders, DG, Poncho Zork, Deb from Sacramento. Thank you for becoming members. Also want to thank people that came by today, Area 51. Let's see, Area 51. Let me get back here. Area 51. J Truth Seeker. Let's see. Area 51, J Truth Seeker, Magneticus Attractus. Miss Captain Jones, I didn't see you earlier. Hey, thanks for coming on in. Also, let's see, who else do we have? We had a lot of people. Magneticus is supposed to be making this process easier for me, guys. So we'll see. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman, thank you for coming through. We appreciate you coming to support the show as always. Mike Jones, thanks for coming on in. Let's see. CS, thanks for showing up tonight. Ange, thanks for coming in as well. Scott Rosen, didn't see you. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you. T-Bone, I did say T-Bone. Thanks for everybody coming in. Can't get to everybody, I'm trying to, but I want to thank everybody that did come in and support the show tonight. Like I said, we'll be doing this, and we always do this for that right there, the positive progression in humanity, always. That's what this is for. Even the conversation we had tonight, it's all about making sure that humanity is kept in the best light, and we do things that we can to kind of move us towards the best direction. So with that being said, definitely want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. It was a pleasure talking to you as your host. I'm Mr. Rob G. This is the Social Dig. Have a great rest of your night, guys. Take care.